I would like to welcome everyone on the very first solo exhibition of Martin Lukács in the gallery and also in Hungary. I would like to thank him for accepting my invitation, and I would also like to thank Dávid Fehér, who also accepted our invitation to open the exhibition and do a little talk with Martin. Thank you.
It's my great pleasure to be here in the first show of Martin and to meet Martin. That's the first time we meet and the first time we talk. And actually I always prepare some questions and remarks for these talks. And before starting the conversation, I just want to share some first impressions regarding these new works, which are amazing and very, very interesting. And I also studied before this talk your portfolio and homepage and all material I could find about you. And while reading your portfolio, I was struck by a great text written by Chris Sharp, which was focusing on a dichotomy of a vertical and a horizontal approach towards painting. And Chris Sharp says that this first one, namely the vertical approach, is determined by a kind of dialectical logic, romanticism and kind of utopian way of expression. And the second one, the horizontal approach, is not a dialectical, rather a kind of full of an experimentational painting, or a sort of painting that is full of experimentation. And he argued that your work is a kind of synthesis of these two approaches. These two different types of painting are united in some form, in some extent, in your work. So actually, on the one hand, I'm not really sure that this dichotomy really exists. But on the other hand, I think Sharp mentions some examples that are very useful through while we try to interpret your work. He mentions examples from Joe Bradley to Amy Zillman, from Christopher Wool to Martin Kippenberger, from Michael Kreber to Josh Smith or Laura Owens. I think these examples are very useful if you want to situate your work within a broader international context. And actually, from my point of view, what these very different artists share is the interest in the limits of painting, and they play a kind of end game with painting, or they play the end game of painting. But what is really common between these artists is that they play this end game not as an act of mourning, rather in a very playful way. Don't be afraid, I won't be do so much theoretical throughout the whole conversation, but what I think it would make really a sense to create a narrative of a trend in contemporary painting and painting of the recent past that is determined by the principle of joy, humor, irony, in a very serious kind of playfulness. And if I would write a history about this playful and joyful and humorous and ironic forms of painting, I would start the story somewhere around Zygmunt Polke or Martin Kippenberger and arrive somewhere to the artist, and arrive later to the artist that Sharp mentioned, namely Joe Bradley and Josh Smith. And what I want to conclude with, so the thing that I want to conclude is that for me, you are a very important, maybe one of the most important figures of this kind of serious playfulness, which I would call in contemporary painting, and especially in our region. Because my impression was, while I was looking through your work, not only these very new ones, but the older ones as well, that there is something ambiguous childishness in your work, which is overwritten by the fine network of art historical references. Nevertheless, your painting seems to perform the principle of joy. So it's full of joy, full of experimentation, full of freedom and freeness. And my first question is, to which you may answer with yes, simply, that would you accept such ideas as serious playfulness and the principle of joy in relation to your painting? Or what do you think about this approach? What does this kind of playfulness or painting as an act of play to you? So what is your approach toward this way of interpretation of your work?
I actually love what you said there with this playfulness and also with this reminiscence of the like childhood, for me also 90s. It's all in. I think you're reading it in the right way. So yeah, I'm on your side, yes. And the truth is, I don't know if I'm that important as one of the most playful guys in the Central Europe or, you know, in our region. But I really do like those artists you've been talking about, or Chris Sharp was mentioning in the text. And also, nevertheless, I wanted to thank Erika. It's an honor to be here, and to you too. Sorry, I forgot that. I had to say it. Yeah.
Yeah, and would you accept also the term of childishness, not in a negative, but in a positive way? So this childlike experimentation.
I love it. Yeah, I love like when kids are drawing. That's absolutely sometimes for me the most beautiful thing and most honest thing. The painting is for me about honesty. So when a kid or when somebody I see the work is not pretentious and I like it, then when I see the childishness, or how to say it, in the painting, I like it.
And do you also study children's drawings? Because in some extent I see a similarity as well, but in a different way. So it's childlike, childish, but in a serious way as well.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I would call that serious playfulness. If I will write a text about you,
Nice.
I think the title would be Serious Playfulness or something like that.
It is. I did study that. In fact, at the academy, I was making a zine, like you know, how's it called, on the risograph, and I did many like graphics. I put it together, and I asked my friend's kid, which was 1.5 years old, like if he can scribble over it. And we did this kind of cooperation, and it looks amazing, like childish scribblings over some shapes, and you know, that was something. When I saw the kid just freely drawing the lines over all of my material, I was really happy. That's why I'm lately using the oil sticks, and I mean I'm using it since 2016, but now more freely than before. Yeah, this one, the scene happened in 2014.
And was that also with oil stick or with stick, or?
It was with a marker only.
With a marker.
Yeah.
Okay. And actually, if we remain, so keep this line, and we focus on the issue of childishness and so on, I would add one more important aspect of your work, and this is the free appropriation of popular culture, for sure. And actually, I guess lots of people ask you about that. But if we are making the first interview with you in Hungary, we should return a little bit to a very important and I think maybe the most well-known series you created earlier. And maybe that was the largest, or one of the largest series you created, which is a free appropriation of popular culture, but also goes back to the childhood, namely the figures of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which were the icons of our childhood. Our means my too, so I think we grew up with these figures. And what makes this series very interesting that these Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles happen to have the names of iconic artists of the Renaissance. Actually, all of us met saw these names first as the names of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, namely Michelangelo, Leonardo, Raphael, and Donatello. My question would be related to this series. Why and how did you choose this very motive, which was a recurring one throughout years in your artistic activity, And in a more generally, so if you put it more general, what is your behavior towards popular culture and this popular visual culture, of which the Teenage Ninja Turtles are one very iconic example, but we can see further examples too in your work.
I mean, I always loved them because I love martial arts, I love pizza, and I love the Renaissance masters. So it's an ideal combination. But also I was, when this whole thing started, I was just preparing some sketches, and I wanted to make simple drawing of like a profile. So I was drawing many profiles because it was childish, kind of stupid, and you know, in the academy it's like forbidden when you try to go to the academy to bring the profiles as a portrait or something. So I love that. It's kind of silly. I was drawing and painting it and blah blah blah. I was playing with it, and one portrait I was adding the bandana. And I was like, hey, this is good. The profile with bandana, like the turtle. So I was so happy that day because I went to the bed and I was lying in the bed and thinking, I should make more turtles, like 20 Ninja Turtles.
But you did more than 20,
Then I did more because the thing is that the first 20, I wasn't satisfied with how they all turned out, or I was painting them quite fast. I liked the process and everything, but then I was like, yeah, I have to buy better canvas. I have to do this more. I want to repaint it more, like more layers, not just simple drawing. So I wanted to try more and more. Yeah.
And how long did it take, this series? It was a long series. It was years.
Yeah. It started 2015 and 16 was the first exhibition, and then I did also some of the turtles like last year, some small, because I never did small scale painting. I kind of like it to repeat it. It's not a bad thing. It's like a signature. Everybody knows that it's me.
And you treat it as a closed series, or are you planning to make further Ninja Turtle works? Or
I'm not planning anything.
not planning. Is it true for all your activities that are not planned, or how much they are planned before you start working? For example, these works seem to me very experimental and not already planned before we start the series or the painting, the very painting.
These are actually kind of spontaneous. This one was planned, and that one was planned, and the totem from the behind this wall.
Yeah, but before we start to talk about these works, I still have two questions that are related to the earlier ones before we arrive to them, to these very new ones, which I like very much.
Thank you.
The first question is related to the popular culture and the childishness, because there's a third issue that I find very important in your work, and this is the world of commodities, which is somehow related to the history of pop art. As well, and to further trends in art. And you presented, while I was looking through your portfolio, I found a very interesting project of you, that you presented works in a food shop warehouse in Prague, which was, these shots are unbelievable, and some of them were Ninja Turtles, but not only Ninja Turtles, different motifs were there on the canvases. And it's very interesting to situate these works within such commodities, like in a factory and so on. But could you tell us a little bit about this project? How did this project start, and what was behind that, or what was your concept behind that? Because I was so much fascinated about this attempt and this.
Everything starts with a friendship, actually. I'm a good friend of the owner of food shop. He's my age. We're kind of the same. And he asked me, like, do you want to do a project with me? I was like, but I won't ever do something like painting in a store or something. I was like, no, not that. But he was like, maybe in a warehouse. We have a huge warehouse. I was there and I was like, yeah, cool. So for this 3 months, we have this project that we want to recycle stuff and blah, blah, blah. So can you paint on the cardboards? I was like, sure. And I was like so amazed by it. So he gave me already some.
So that the works were painted on cardboards that were used on the food shop. Or
actually, there were like big frames from wood, and the cardboard was on it. It was glued on it. It's really 3 meters to 2 meters every painting.
Yeah, they were huge.
Yeah.
They were
because
huge.
the whole warehouse is 6,000 square meters or something like that. So
that was your largest show.
Yeah, the largest
today.
show. I wasn't even painting the works there because at my studio it wouldn't be fitting. So I was traveling every day more than 1 hour to the to the warehouse, which is behind like Prague ends here, and it was like here in the first village or something, you know, because where all the warehouses are kind of behind town.
Yeah, in the suburb or far further. Yeah.
It was so fun because I was even going for lunch with the workers there from the.
And was it open to the public or how?
Yeah, the opening was for the public, and then if anybody wanted to see it, then they have to ask
by
for
appointment.
It.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I was just spontaneous. I was like, yeah, I will paint MMA techniques and MMA fighters portraits. So I did that, and then I was showing it to my friend, and he was like, "This is perfect. It's like church for sneakers and icons of the sport. It's very good."
Yeah, and it's somehow your works is also about mediatized images, media images, and commodities in some extent. But your works are not like commodities, but the motifs are somehow commodities, and they were situated within that. So I really liked this. And one more question, which is related to this issue of commodities and pop art and so on. I had the impression that the act of repetition and serialization of motifs, like the Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtles, but others, is very crucial in your work. And could you tell me a little bit about this phenomenon, this repetition? Why do you have some ideas why repetition is so crucial in your artistic activities? I mean, repetition of some motifs like signatures. You have the signature is also
it's everywhere.
The signature is also a very important motif of your works. But I mean, these motifs that you repeat, like the Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtles or other, are like signatures in some extent.
That's true. I mean, I want to do, like, all the time I want to make better paintings. So I take the motif and I'm just trying to make it better, or as how I feel. I feel some, like I had some new inspiration, or I feel like a different person, then I want to try to paint the same motif as 5 years ago and make it better, or not better, just like different. So that's it. I just want to improve and do the same motif which I still like, or when I paint it, I'm still thinking if I like the painting, if I like the motif, and you know, that's a small adventure for me.
Yeah, it's very interesting, but there's no theoretical. Actually, you are not a so theoretical type of artist.
No.
But
I want to have fun.
that could be a motto. I think that's the thing. That's the one I mentioned. This serious joyfulness or playfulness. That I want to have fun. That could be a kind of motto of your work. And I think people are visiting your shows and looking at the works have also fun. And that's the fun in the whole stuff. That you have fun and we have fun.
I hope
as well.
It's that way.
And let's turn now to these works, which we see here in the Deák Erika Gallery, which are slightly different from the ones we were talking about before. Yes. They are abstractions, or mostly abstractions, or like abstractions, or semi-abstractions, and so on. And in some extent, these works evoke the traditions of abstractions, the big traditions of abstractions. I just wrote down the American abstract expressionism, but while we were talking about the childlike drawings, the Cobra group also came to my mind, and several important traditions of modernism. And it seems to me a seemingly big shift from your earlier loosely painted figurations. And how did this shift came? While I was looking through your work, I saw that it wasn't the first time you experimented with abstraction. But how do you feel the relationship between your abstract work and your figurative work? How do you see the relationship between abstraction and figuration within your work in general? Because I think it's a very important issue in your art, how you shift or go from one style, one series to another.
Yeah, I'm still spontaneous, and this one is kind of I feel a big connection. There's not such a big difference in the figures when I paint. I mean, this is also for me kind of a figurative painting. So yeah, like but for the figures I prepare a bit more. I'm just using something from the abstract work.
And what do you mean by, for you, these works are figurative? In what extent, or what do you, how do you mean this?
Good question. I mean, for me, this one could be also a figure, like, you know, some sort of space with the human which just left or something. I don't know. I can't describe it verbally, but I feel like this could be also something similar as a figure in a nature or something.
And could you tell me a little bit about the main inspirations behind this series? So do you treat these works, which we see here together, as part of one series, or do you see them individually? Was there some formative experiences behind these works and behind this shift or this jump towards this, I would not say then abstraction anymore, but more abstract approach?
Yeah. Well, yeah, this one was more for me new with in terms of just using more pink, and we just discussed it yesterday with Erika. Like I never used pink, and I somehow liked pink. So I even asked my girlfriend like what she thinks, and you know. Yeah, and the process was different because usually I paint either on canvas or on the floor. This one was just raw canvas. I painted on the floor, then on the wall, then it got framed, and I painted again, overpainted it.
Wow, so it was a complicated process,
yeah.
because
Yeah. This one
some painters put that on the floor, like Jackson Pollock or Georg Baselitz, and there are some painters who paint on an easel, so you change.
I'm changing it all the time. Yeah, that's the thing. So, yeah.
And what's the process, or how does the process look like? So you start with the oil stick.
I start with the oil stick, and then I'm adding layers till I'm satisfied.
Yeah, because there are lots of layers on this painting. This is kind of palimpsest of painterly layers on top of each other. But you draw the oil stick works on the floor, and then the patches of paint on the wall.
Yeah. And then I add some more the white when it was stretched on the frame. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievably dense, full of different layers, which is hard to decipher in some extent. And actually, we have just talked a little bit about the oil stick. You mentioned that the oil stick as a tool is related to you, for you somehow with childishness. But do you have any further reasons why you chose oil stick, or what are the advantages of using oil stick? Because for me, it was also a kind of important aspect of these works, that they are done with oil stick.
Yeah, because I was drawing a lot before, and I thought I was using charcoal. What is so similar to charcoal? And I found out the oil stick is kind of, I can do some, you know, nice, how to say it, strokes with the stick, or you know, it looks similar to a charcoal, so that's why I liked it. So I wanted to have it similar as fun as the drawing is. When I do drawing, I do really fast, spontaneous drawing, so I wanted to have it also that moment in the painting.
And one more technical invention, which was a surprise for me when I entered the room, is that one, which is for me maybe a kind of highlight of the whole exhibition. It's a very interesting work, and what made it for me even more interesting that when I entered the room and started to look at the surface of the painting closely, I simply realized that the first layer of this work is printed, and you have a further layer which is done or drawn with oil stick and or not, or that there are some oil stick parts as well, but they are also painted. So there are three different techniques put on the top of each other. And please tell me, when did you start this experiment of printing painting and then overpainting the printed painting, and in some extent these different layers are getting so well together that it's hard to differentiate between the printed, the drawn and the painted layers.
I wanted to try to have some like charcoal strokes or oil stick strokes which are really thick like this, and I couldn't achieve it easily with the regular like oil stick. And also I was interested into making some sort of a new process out of the painting, not just the same one as I do first, second and third or fourth layer. So more interesting thing was to make the drawing that I made. Actually I made two drawings because the yellow partially is also printed, and I put it together as a how's it called, the printing machine.
Printer or
No, I mentioned it and I forgot the name.
Risograph.
Risograph, yeah. So I made some riso works. Then I printed it on the canvas. I put some special varnish, like a lacquer paint, because it needs to preserve the print, and then I painted over it with regular oil and with oil sticks, and this is the process. And I thought it's kind of similar with painting all of the layers just with paint, but this is more of a other like graphic kind of game, or I don't know. I just wanted to have different layers, different perspective on the space in the painting, and it's a tryout. I made like 8 paintings like this.
Yeah, so you already have 8 paintings. It's a kind of series. Yeah, because it's a very interesting attempt that goes back to such issues as pop artists did, like Rauschenberg or Warhol, overpainting the printed material, or later such artists as Christopher Wu,
or Laura Owens too.
Laura Owens, they experimented with the digitally printed
and
or
3D print. 3D print.
Or 3D prints, yeah. Are you also thinking in making 3D prints as well, or experimenting?
Not yet. Let's see.
But this issue, this play with the printed material and the painted material and their dialectics is very interesting, and also somehow related to the issues of the paintings, the issues of painting after technology and the relations. Are you interested in such issues of painting and technology, which is, I think, a very timely issue?
Yeah. With all the NFTs and stuff, of course. I am interested, but the approach from my side is kind of slower, and I'm trying to more dig into it, like deeper, and see what's, let's see what comes out of me, because I just want to do some tryouts. I'm also an observer. I don't want to react immediately and react to the what's happening outside. Oh, somebody does an NFT, I have to do it right away. No, I'm just slow, and it has to come from the heart, not from the calculative mind. Let's make money.
And it's going to other paintings or looking at other paintings. I have another impression, another important issue in your art. Maybe if you look at this blue one, the relationship between line and brushstroke, or geometry and the gesture and so on, because the basis of this painting is a loosely painted composition which evokes geometry or geometrical painting, but not that geometric or not precisely geometric, and this is overdrawn and overwritten by further patches and brush strokes. How do you feel your relation on the one hand to this kind of abstract expressionistic approach and with geometry? Because I see here something from geometry, even from such artists as Stanley Whitney, if you wouldn't.
Stanley Whitney, yeah, I like that.
If you wouldn't be against
like
it. Or actually, my favorite is Sean Scully, for example.
Sean Scully is, wow, his works are really beautiful. Yeah, I like that type of work, actually.
Yeah.
I started to, when I was younger, I started actually the academy in the Košice, Kašaváros. And the teacher there was a geometrical painter. He's kind of older dude, also he speaks Hungarian.
Really?
Yeah. So he's, yeah, you know, I was under the influence, I liked it before. So geometry for me is kind of alive, but yeah, I have different approach.
Yeah, we open it up somehow, livening. You're livening geometry. It's more lively.
I don't know if it's geometry, but yeah.
For me, there are these circle and rectangle-like forms are a sort of geometrical composition that is completely destructed, or
it is. I was just imagining some old painter, geometry guy coming to this and thinking like, oh my God, this is not a geometry.
It's
irony.
It's destructed, or it's a destroyed geometry or a destroyed form, or actually. When wind comes in and destructs geometry. And one more question that I would add is related to the title. Actually, the works have very interesting titles, but the show itself has a very interesting title, As Good As I Once Was. Why?
Good question. Actually, I had to change the title because of what's happening in the world right now. And the title was Good Times, because I had a good time with every painting I painted. And there are paintings from 2018 here, 2022.
It's not possible to use a good time, such a title as Good Times.
So I came with this one, As Good As I Once Was, because sometimes people are looking at their older selves and thinking like, yeah, maybe I was in a better shape, better mood. You know, also with the paintings, painters are like, yeah, maybe this was my highlight. So it's kind of irony, and I have to admit it's a song from Toby Keith. It's a country like honky tonk song.
Yeah, it's funny, but for me, when I read the title, it also relates somehow to the idea of this childlike drawing as well. If you would not say anything against that kind of interpretation, that going back to the very honest, childish way of approaching the medium and approaching the vision. And if we are still talking about the titles, one word struck me, the word of totem. You use totem quite often, and what do you mean by totem, or why do you use totem in relation to these paintings?
Because this, or more the painting behind us, from the other side, from the back side of this floor, it's from a series which started as an abstract work, and I started to be more focused to make the whole painting in the center somehow. And I felt like, this is some sort of a head, this could be a butt or whatever. You know, I felt like, I can combine figurative work with an abstract work in a totem. And totems were in front of, I don't know, casinos, or in front of some villages of the natives with some heads of the enemies or whatever. I just like that idea that it could be a warning, it could be something fun. It's some sort of a rural motive, which is in combination with the figure and with many things.
Is it related to tribal art as well, or
tribal art?
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, it's a combination of many things which I like, and yeah, for me, totem was the right idea. I even made the other one, which I'm talking about. It's even horizontal, which I like. I've never seen a horizontal totem because it's just
yeah, I see it because of the form as a landscape,
Yeah.
So, but you would interpret this work as a horizontal type of totem.
Yeah, for sure. Because these elements are that's figure.
Yeah, so this is the combination of figurative and abstract painting, because for me it's like a still life or a landscape.
Could be
maybe because of the landscape format. That's the reason why in English we call this landscape format.
Landscape format, yeah.
Yeah, but also the totem is something which is very vertical.
Yes, and I wanted to also break that rule.
You're subversive and making from something which is very vertical a horizontal one.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. Actually, we may go back to this room and
let's go back to this room.
I have very few questions left.
How many?
3 questions.
Let's do 2.
Let's do 2. Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
Let's do 3.
Let's do 3, but they are not related to certain paintings, rather more general ones. The one is related to your origins. You're from Bratislava and based in Prague, and some writers call you a kind of artist of the post-socialist era, but all of us somehow artists or art professionals of a post-socialist era in East Central Europe. And my question would be, how did this environment, I mean the early 90s or 90s, made an impact on your work?
Well, it's easy. I was all the time watching Cartoon Network, and everywhere I saw graffiti, just like scribbles with the names of the band, like Prodigy or Wu-Tang Clan. So that's what I saw. That's what I like. Even the Turtles. Everywhere I saw also like 23, like Michael Jordan. I was a huge fan of Michael Jordan. I still am. And yeah, basically the 2000s and 90s, they were good to me. I loved it somehow.
Yeah. But on the other hand, you was the child of the post-socialist era, and you're the young artist of the digital era somehow. So you're very active on Instagram and in the digital world. And how do you see this digital circulation of images, and how does this kind of digital activity inspire or influence your work as an artist? Because on the other hand, you are an artist of a quite old and traditional medium, painting. Now, although you use in some works some digital or post-digital elements, but all in all you are not traditional. I would never call you a traditional painter, but you are an artist who uses a traditional medium.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, very, very active in the digital world as well. And how do you see these two things together, or the relation between them?
I mean, the relationship, it's good. I like to be overwhelmed by images. It's always nice to see some stars which are being born through Instagram, or some new shows which I can't go to. You can see them live on the Instagrams or TikToks or whatever of each gallery in the world, Guggenheim, Shaman Reed, whatever,
Could you name some such stars or experiences from the recent past which struck you or was of a crucial influence?
Crucially influenced me? I don't know.
Or not influence, you found good, simply. It doesn't have to influence your work, but
I don't know, like many gallerists or even collectors are like checking your website and stuff, but then if they see your Instagram, I think they're more hooked. So for example, when I was in Los Angeles, I think it was thanks to Instagram too, like the guy Danny First who has the cabin, he just saw the work, but he was writing me a polite email, he didn't hit me a message through Instagram. But I think that's also, it's important for artists to have an Instagram or even TikTok now or whatever.
Do you have TikTok?
Real.
Do you have TikTok?
I'm not using TikTok that much.
I don't have
But
TikTok.
I have it, but I'm not using it. But I have to. I will make some videos.
So that will be a kind of plan. Because my last question would be a kind of general and very usual last question. What are your short-term and long-term plans? Do you have some short-term plans and long-term plans?
Short term is what's going to happen today. We'll have a champagne, I guess.
In the next months, years, exhibition plans or anything related to your art you plan to realize, intend to realize, would love to realize?
Yeah, I would love to realize 2 more shows in Munich and in Lisbon, but it's not 100% confirmed yet. But yeah, we're in talking with the galleries, and yeah, that's.
What could be your long-term plan?
Long term?
In 20 years or something.
20
What
years?
would be an optimal scenario for you in 20 years?
Oh yeah, to still have fun and drink wine and be happy. That's the only plan.
Okay, and I think that's a kind of good last word, and I hope that will happen with both of us in 20 years.
Perfect, thank you very much for this.
I thank you for your great answers and for this amazing show.
It's a pleasure and honor. And thanks again, Erika, for this, and to you too, David.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks.